everyone. We are the Colorado Gifted and Talented Student Board, and we are from the United States. We are so grateful to be here and privileged to be able to present on an international stage. And by the end of this presentation, we just hope that you are encouraged to challenge and empower your students to engage in student advocacy, and that you gain the student perspective on the value of our involvement. So we have four presenters here today. My name is Katie Smella. I'm going to be a senior next year, and I was identified in third grade in math and then in fifth grade in language arts. And I joined the board in the fall of 2020. And then my position here on the board is I'm going to be an upcoming executive chair. And then I just joined the board because I feel privileged that for the GT position and the program that I have up at my school. And I feel like I have a perspective on the success of a good GT program. And I felt like it was important to share that the best that I could.
Hi, my name is Mei Chen. I'm also going to be a senior next year. I was identified in math and language arts in elementary school, and I joined this board in the fall of 2020. I am now one of the new executive chairs, and I joined this board because I wanted to bring the perspective of all the GT students complaining about their GT experience that I have seen online. And I wanted to bring those perspectives to the student board so we could come up with solutions to address those complaints.
Hi, I'm Allie Lindsay. I will be a freshman in college starting in the fall. I was identified in math, reading, and writing in third grade, and I am the outgoing administrative executive chair. I joined this because I co-founded it in around 2018 going into 2019. And really it was because we found a need, a collective need for more student involvement in our own education. We found a lot of discrepancies within the GT programs throughout Colorado. And we just found a collective need to try to bring students together and create a platform for us to be able to move forward in a more effective way.
Hello, my name is Chalana Manolo, and I'm an executive chair on the board. I was identified as gifted in reading, writing, and math in kindergarten. I've been on this board since my freshman year when we first formed. I was identified as gifted in Washington State, and from my first through sixth grade, I had a class of solely gifted children where our learning was accelerated greatly and we were more hands-on and involved in our education. I then moved to Colorado during middle school and had a pretty bad experience where the only thing I really had as a gifted student was setting up a learning goal in the beginning of the year and then being left on my own in classes. I joined the board with the hope to improve this experience for other students who also seem to have the same issues as me but couldn't get their voices out.
All right, so who are we as a board? One of the main things that we think is pretty unique about us is the idea that we are an entirely student-founded and student-run board. And we think that that gives us a pretty unique position in the fact that we are able to really advocate for and pursue kind of whatever we're passionate about as a board collectively. We don't feel obligated to advocate for or go in a direction that some higher authority tells us that we should, and we just get to really focus on what the students need and what the students want to advocate for.
Along with that, our mission is to obtain input from gifted students in Colorado to enhance the GT experience. When we created this board, we all were feeling frustrated that the GT students, the people who are actually being affected by school policies, were not included in these GT discussions. And we think that the student perspective is really important in these types of discussions because we are the ones being affected. So we decided to take matters into our own hands and help make GT student voices heard.
And our vision is the Colorado Gifted and Talented Student Board strives to provide ease of learning and prosperity to all gifted and talented identified students within Colorado. We believe that with student advocacy and by using our voices and our platform, we can make our needs and the needs of other GT students heard, so we're better provided for by the people who don't really know what the program is like firsthand.
We began in a very small group called Secondary Summit. It just consists of GT educators and administrators from across Colorado. It was a very small group at first. It only consisted of 2 school districts. And so there were not very many students involved, but something that they encouraged us to do was create something that students could be a lot more of a part of. They know that students they have a lot of different types of experiences, and those experiences are unique to them, to just having students involved. So that type of perspective was very, very important as we started to pick up some speed, and kind of where we wanted to go with this. We really noticed that there was a need for more student involvement in GT programs throughout the entire state, because there were a lot of discrepancies that were really just being unfair to students being able to enhance their own education. We slowly traveled across the state, and we picked up students from all across the state to be involved in our board, because all of their different types of experiences really enhanced and made our board a little bit more effective, which eventually brought us to where we are today.
So the main event for our board starting out was going to conferences for the Colorado Association for the Gifted and Talented, or CAGT, and the Colorado Association of School Boards, or CASB. Our biggest goal in this was to provide the student perspective for those working in education that needed to hear from younger people but often couldn't. For this purpose, a large portion of our presentations was having an open space for Q&A. And while this isn't something that we can do under COVID circumstances, it was clear that people had a lot of questions when given the opportunity to pick students' brains. There were questions ranging from very basic things like what exactly do GT students need in the classroom, to more specific topics such as students with learning disabilities and special needs. We were and still are always happy to provide whatever answers we could and help educators to build a full view of their field of work. Of course, going to these conferences was also good for us personally, which Ali will explain to you.
One of our biggest things that we were really trying to work on was networking. These types of opportunities gave us the chance to meet some of our strongest contacts that would really push us to our next level, and enhance our ability to interact with more students and more types of people. These groups were like, the Colorado Association of Gifted and Talented, or the Colorado Association for School Boards. It gave us an opportunity to directly speak with specific school board members, so they can be a little bit more hands-on and be a little bit more educated on GT issues, and hear it directly from the students that they work with. And it was just a general boost and a positive direction for kind of how we were able to start to move forward. There were a lot of people that had a lot of brand new ideas for us, and they all have a lot more resources than we do. So it gave us just a lot of different types of chances and experiences to be able to move us a little bit more forward.
So as with everything else these days, COVID happening last year really shook up our board. Nearly everything we were doing had been in person, from our own meetings to these statewide conferences. And for a while we were really stuck. However, we weren't willing to give up for some unknowable amount of time and let go of our chance to advocate and get our word out. Instead, we moved all of our operations online. For one, we stopped meeting in person entirely and instead used Google Meets calls. Since then, we've been holding meetings around 3 times a month with different parts of our school boards. While I felt like there were some downsides to not being in person, such as the group not feeling quite as connected, I think we did a good job in our transition. And since everyone can join from the comfort of their own homes, we've had a higher turnout rate for our meetings and have been meeting much more often than prior. And we also have been able to have more members from different districts to more fully represent our state and haven't had to worry about traveling to meet up.
With COVID, we also moved our central organization system online. So now we use Google Classroom, and we feel like that has given us a good central hub and a way to organize all of our information and everything that members need to be able to stay informed about what we're doing. And it also gives us a way to assign assignments or tasks to each of the board members. And those are really important just to accomplish what we need to move forward as a successful board. And so Google Classroom was really one of those good things that came out of COVID, and I think that we'll continue to use it in the future.
And as we talked about previously, when we were able to attend conferences, we were able to network and market our board in person. But when COVID hit and we went fully online, we couldn't afford to lose the exposure or attention after we had just established ourselves as a credible student board. So we decided to create our own website using Wix, and it was entirely student made. One of the previous executive chairs took up this task and created this website by themselves. So unlike using Google Meets and Google Classroom, we really had to format and make this our own. And this was one of the biggest challenges of moving on to online. But after we had finished our website, we have proudly published our accomplishments and projects. We also post what we are currently working on. There's more information about the board as a whole and the board members as individuals. We also have information for educators and parents on what GT is for students, because there's many definitions for what GT is out there, but one of the important definitions that adults should definitely consider is the student perspective. And there's also ways to contact us on our website. And through our website, we've been able to reach hundreds of teachers, students, and GT coordinators because we were able to send out our website during these conferences and emailing with people. So we made sure that we're staying relevant.
So with this new foundation set, our group continued to run with the goal to provide for other students. And one of our largest accomplishments throughout the past year has been our resources project. The idea behind this is for students to help other students. As high schoolers, we noticed how difficult it is to find opportunities outside of school for things such as volunteering, internships, and scholarships. We decided to try and solve this problem ourselves, forming a centralized place for GT students to find them quickly without the help of adults. As gifted students tend to be more independent and more interested in going above and beyond, having this easy to access place they can look through themselves is a great way to expand on what they find important. During meetings, all of our members looked into their own areas of interest. For example, I looked into scientific and medical opportunities, such as an internship to work in various labs within the state. I want to study biotechnology and become a pathologist. And for me, having opportunities outside of school is very important because it not only gives students confidence that they're going into the field that they want to, but also hands-on experience, which is a big part personally for my field. That's very important, but we're not really available to explore in high school.
In terms of the resource project, what I did, as well as another member of our board, is finding resources for online classes, whether it be through universities or platforms like Skillshare, just because we understand that GT students often struggle with feeling fulfilled and satisfied with their education inside the classroom. So we thought that these resources would give them an opportunity to kind of explore their passions outside of the classroom.
The area I focused on for our resource project was extracurriculars outside of school, specifically in the arts. One of the concerns that I wanted to address with this resource project was helping GT kids deal with burnout. So having extracurricular activities outside of school in the arts is a great way to prevent burnout and promote creativity.
So as you can see, all of our students are very interested and involved in their areas, and many of us already had a couple of things in mind for their own resources, and then we slowly added on. Within a couple months, each of us had at least 5 resources to publish on our website and have had every new wave of our members find some as well. As such, we have a large pool of resources on our website available for students to go through.
Also, during this pandemic, we still continue to present at the Colorado Association of School Board online conference, as well as the Colorado Association for Gifted and Talented online conference. At those meetings, we promoted our resource projects so teachers and GT coordinators could share these valuable resources with their students. Because even though we were presenting at a adult-orientated conference, we wanted these resources to reach the students. And of course, through promoting our resource projects, we were promoting our website, but we don't just promote ourselves at these conferences. We continue to bring the student perspective to educators on issues we think are important. For example, we discuss the differences between the struggles of GT programs at rural schools versus urban schools, one of which is funding. Obviously, rural schools receive less funding than urban schools. But one of the things that we pointed out was that if you really care about GT students, you don't really need to spend a lot of money. Our resource project was designed to help GT students, and we did it all for free. All you really need to do is listen to what GT students are asking for, and that's why we think student advocacy is important, so that adults know what students are asking for.
We also had the opportunity to provide or to present on the Colorado Association of School Boards podcast. We were invited on by one of their executive chairs, and it was because we had interacted with her previously and she had heard us present on a multitude of GT problems. And she felt that school board members were a little bit disconnected from the GT side of things, as it's not really a really top priority on their plate. And so it really provided us a platform for students' voices to be able to be heard by school board members in more of an indirect manner. But it was for people throughout Colorado and also in surrounding states around us. This was also a publicity boost for us. It brought a lot of students into our board after school board members encouraged their students to get more involved with us. And it just provided a platform again for us to discuss a different type of GT issues from across Colorado and through all of our experiences. Currently, it's available on all streaming platforms, and ultimately, it provided a boost to us to help us to reach another level and reach another, I guess, expansion for people throughout Colorado.
We've been talking about our journey and our past and our accomplishments, but now we want to focus on what we're doing now. Right now, our current project is what we call the passion projects. The idea behind it is that us, the executive chairs, wanted to help support our board members in making tangible change in their communities. Before, as we discussed, our projects focused on statewide issues, but through discussions with our board members, each school has their own specific problems that students want to advocate for locally. For example, my group wanted to form a leadership team for our school's GT programs. We felt that our school didn't actually do anything with the GT curriculum, so we spoke about this issue with our GT counselor. And this is where student involvement is really important, because it turns out that she was thinking the same thing, and that she wanted to do an enrichment program where GT students spend the year working on passion projects, something similar to what this student board is already doing. And as you can see, that it really aligns with what GT kids want. They want to do things that they are passionate about instead of only following the academic curriculum. So we decided to form a leadership team to get this enrichment program going. But the problem was that teachers are not used to letting kids do what they want, especially non-GT teachers. They're trained to only give out curriculum and not help guide students with what they want to do. So our leadership team's job over the summer is to help inform these teachers about how GT students really work and able to get them on board with this enrichment program.
All right, so in terms of the end of the year transition, as the end of the year approached, we really felt that it was necessary for the new executive chairs to take on more responsibility, seeing that it would be our board to lead next year without our founding members. So as the end of the year approached, we gradually started gaining more responsibilities leading the board. That looked like initially just taking on leading all just most of our meetings, and that turned into actually planning the content and deciding what we felt it was necessary to talk about in our meetings, and kind of the direction that we felt like we wanted to go with as a board next year. And so previously we had done more training back in the winter, but this was kind of our chance to use that training and see what it would be like with the three of us running the board next year. And we also plan on sending out new applications this fall for new members, and we hope that we get a lot of new members applying so we can just advocate for students the best we can as a board.
So throughout this presentation, we've been highlighting our board's student advocacy success, and the purpose of this presentation was for educators to help their students model after us. However, it is important to remember that student advocacy is a very broad term, and there's no one right way to go about it. To highlight this, each member of our board described what student advocacy meant to them, and May compiled all of their videos into one.
Student advocacy.
Student advocacy.
Student advocacy.
Student advocacy. Student advocacy.
Student advocacy.
Student advocacy.
Student advocacy is
taking action for change. Acting within a unique position.
The way for students to leave an impact on their community.
Regardless of their economic background or other backgrounds.
To create concise and continuous solutions that bridge the gap between students and their community.
But beyond that, it's also a way for them to forge a new community and build connections in the world around them.
We get to share the story of students from a student perspective, and we can be a personal and accurate voice for what students go through every day and what they need to be successful to people who can help.
They have a voice to express the things that they need and want for their education in a school system that doesn't necessarily take that opinion into account.
Especially in the pandemic, it's very hard for students to get in contact with counselors or teachers. So advocacy for me is for students to speak up on their needs.
And make sure that people are always involved in the most important issues in their lives. And because of that, I believe that it fuels growth and leadership within students, as well as helping change the communities that they exist in.
As an older high school student, I like to help younger GT students and influence them to be the best they can possibly be.
This requires a lot of spreading awareness to bring attention to issues that we need improvement on by authority figures that control our educational experience, and it can require collective meeting and advocacy.
All right, so we also understand that the concept of student empowerment and student advocacy is still very abstract, and it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So we would like to take this opportunity to zoom in and showcase on a successful situation where one of our board members was actually encouraged by her educator to engage in student advocacy, just so you can see kind of the concrete applications of what we're talking about.
Hello, my name is Brooke Watley, and I am now a junior at Canyon City High School, which is located in Fremont County in southern Colorado. My student advocacy project began last year when my GT counselor invited me to join a Marshall Brennan moot court competition program. From there, I became the first person to compete from my school at the state level, which I placed first at, and then at the national level, which I again placed first at. This experience was incredible for me, as well as my community, and had impacts I could not even begin to imagine. It began with random community members sending me thank you notes and even checks so I could begin a program at my school, which would continue to feed Canyon City High School kids into this program. So that way, even though I was the first person to compete at these things, I wouldn't be the last. And these were completely unprompted from people who I'd never even met. But I have continued to take it steps further, where I'm looking to educate students with a law book, which will inform them of the rights that they do and do not have, as decided by the Supreme Court and other appellate courts. While it may not seem typical of a student advocacy, I'm hoping that my advocacy project is not just standing up for others, but teaching them how to stand up for themselves while I continue to build this club and inform them. In a sense, I'm empowering them to act for themselves.
Perfect. So our point in showing these videos is to highlight that while it may not be easy to create these types of platforms, the importance of students having a voice within their own education is essential. Not only does it provide opportunities for like fine-tuning your leadership skills and self-advocacy skills, but it also allows students to change the course of their own education and take charge of their own future.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to view our presentation, and we hope our story inspires you to encourage your students to advocate for themselves. If you have any questions or would like to work with us, please feel free to contact us by email at coloradogtsb@gmail.com or visit our website at coloradogtsb.wixsite.com/cgtsb.